everybody. Hey, it's John Bellamy here, and welcome to our latest live expert interview. Today, who's joining me is Mr. Eric Saar. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing fantastic, John. How are you doing?
Fantastic. I love these interviews because, it's a great way, for all of us, obviously, right? It's a great way to bring some quality talent and expertise to our community to showcase your things. And I think it's your ideas and strategies. It's great for me just to have a conversation with people like yourself. And I think these tips and suggestions and everything that we cover, there's so much gold in these interviews that we conduct. So I'm really looking forward to it. So Eric, to kick things off, I know we're going to be talking about Facebook ads today, and there's a gazillion different things around Facebook ads that we can talk about, and in the short time together, we're going to focus on a few of those. But before we kick off, do you just want to do a real nice little quick intro about who you are? Tell people who you are and your background.
Absolutely. I've done a lot of things. I'm one of those people who can't really narrow it down. So I did journalism school for a while. I'm getting my MBA from Pepperdine, doing all these things, marketing, organic marketing versus paid ads. But really the big focus for today is that back 2019, I worked for a subcontractor at Facebook and worked as a marketing expert there. So everybody sees the marketing expert thing. Well, I was that for a year and 3 months. During that time, I worked with 1,200 clients, which is more than pretty much any agency can say. And that included of strategizing more than $100 million in their Facebook spend from clients all the way from $20 a day about to $500,000 in 1 month of spend that got a 2x return of $1 million. And so doing that, and about 500 of those people were agencies being paid a lot of money to do other people's stuff, and they were begging me to fix their stuff because they did not have it going on. And so we'll get into some of the weeds on there. And really, I've just made Slingshot Media Consulting into a solution to solve people's Facebook problems. That's really my problem. And we'll talk about the specifics of that, but I made this to solve the problem forever for people.
Yeah, and this is why I wanted to get you on there, right? Because there's a gazillion Facebook experts out there, just like LinkedIn experts and every type of experts. It gets thrown around a little bit, but why I wanted to speak to you specifically around the ad side of things is because I know that the experience and the exposure in that time in that agency or in that consultancy role, like you said, you were working with clients who were spending $20 a day. You were working with clients who were spending $500,000 a month, and anything in between, which is great. So there's a couple of questions that I had for you around this, and I want to give you a bit of context first because like I said, I want to make sure that this is really relevant to our audience, right? So to give you a bit of context, most of the clients that we will speak with or work with, they're more traditional business to business solution-based businesses. Okay, so they could be a professional service consultancy type firm. They might have a software where it might be typically like a higher ticket software. So we're talking, in the realms of 25, 30,000 upwards in subscription type solution that they're selling to clients. We've got clients in the manufacturing space. Where the actual widget, if you like, that they're manufacturing, they might only sell it for $100 to $500, maybe $1,000 item, but they're selling, hundreds, if not thousands of these at a time, right down to a local business who's the ice cream vendor and the like. So we've got, similar to your experience, and that's once again why I wanted you on here. We've got all of these different clients, right? Now, the big problem, the focus that they're looking for, the solution that they're always looking for is, number one, how do we increase brand exposure? So how do we get people to find out who the heck we are? And number two, and probably most importantly, is how do we consistently, keyword, consistently generate quality leads at a reasonable rate, okay? So as you know, they come to me because we do a lot of our work on LinkedIn. So we do a lot of messaging style work on LinkedIn. We do paid ad strategies on LinkedIn, bring that back to Keep. And I see Facebook, even though my experience isn't there on Facebook, I see Facebook as one of those great cross-channel platforms that we can't ignore. Hence why we're streaming this live on Facebook, right? From that aspect. So my question around that is there's so many experts out there. There's so many different things that you can do. Where should somebody start? Let's say they were starting with the budget of like 500 to 2,000 bucks a month. Where should they start?
So I found, so that's a decent budget for what you're trying to do. Depends on obviously which kind of business you are. When you say where to start, there's a way to do it. One, it's on picking the right objective. So you said brand awareness. You basically said that there's objectives for that. There's conversions and traffic, but you have to know what to use them for. So really, like what I'm trying to bring to the table is how to structure your ads. So really the first step is to not sabotage yourself. That's what our consulting and courses do. There are ways, these significant edits and all these things are you sabotage, you do all these things wrong, but they don't know they do it wrong. Agencies don't even know they're doing it wrong. And then they get to the 2 weeks that I see their ads and I'm like, why do you think this was going to go well? You sabotage it so badly that I would expect it to do worse than it did. So you should be lucky. And they're like, I'm so entitled to my leads. And I'm like, well, you made sure that they wouldn't come in, but okay, let's reset this. So really it's a particular objective, not editing your ads that are active. And then we can talk about the specifics of that if we want to. Understanding how copy and creative works on Facebook, and really understanding that it's about touch points. And so it's not about, this is what I talk about sometimes in my courses and stuff, is passive versus active, understanding the difference between Google and Facebook in this sense of what you're trying to do. And that's not a quick fix. It's you want to be the top of mind once they're ready to do that. If you wanted them in the middle of the buying process, then go to Google. It's not what it's made for. It's made to make sure that you can get sales where there wasn't going to be any sales. And many other things like that.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting point of view when we talk about funnel, right? Like top of funnel, middle funnel, and all of that side of things. So so a lot of, like, for example, if I go and speak to LinkedIn, right? So we manage ads on LinkedIn and all of that. And when I speak to LinkedIn directly and the ad managers there, I go, okay, so majority of our clients, got a smaller budget. Some of them would spend upwards of 10,000 and more a month, occasionally, and all of that. But most of them are small business. And I'm like, where should we spend the time? Because with LinkedIn ads, all the research and all the information that I've been told from LinkedIn directly is that you should ultimately have about a 60 to 70% allocation of your spend on brand awareness and 30 to 40% on lead gen. Now, however, that's if you're spending more than $10,000 a month. Okay, so you're starting to get that. And then when I say, okay, well, what if they're just starting out? What if they've got like 500 to $2,000 a month, and the commonality response is just go straight for lead gen? You may allocate a tiny little bit for brand awareness, like a video view ad or something like that, but 80-90% of that budget needs to be lead gen. Would that be the same type of like advice, discussion that people should be looking at when it comes to Facebook ads?
Yes. So basically that lead gen or that brand awareness and reach campaigns, really, I say should be used if you have almost no money, so less than $20 or more than 10,000 or something, right? For instance, when we saw Starbucks, when we were working there, we got to look at Starbucks ad account, and it's like $1 million in spend a day, and they're not doing lead gen. They don't care. They know that they just need to remind you that you want to buy a coffee and that you should do it from them. They're not trying to get a sale, right? So generally you want to do conversions, lead gen, native forms, messages, and then traffic is the best for retargeting. And that's because it's not like email marketing, right? It's not a cold audience to warm to hot. It's target them for what you want them to do, and then that's pre-qualified who you go after. So just like age, gender, things are demographics, Facebook has, say you're a video viewer and I'm a converter, right? Well, it changes who you're going after when you pick different objectives.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's dive into this a little bit more. Like, I'm gonna be really greedy. I'm gonna talk about me for a moment. Okay. So outside of our little LinkedIn consultancy, I've got investment in 2 other companies, right? So the first one I want to talk about is the International Academy of Wealth. Okay, we do a lot of work on Facebook. So we've got a Facebook group called the Modern Day Investor, and Paulina and the team are driving messaging style. So similar to like what we do on LinkedIn, messenger style to build that group, and that's going really good. We're getting some great engagement and everything like that. And heading into 2022, one of the areas that we want to do is investigate again, as you know, doing some Facebook ads. And looking at what we can do there. So the problem we've had previously is that we've driven to like ebook funnels and things like that, and they've worked really well. The campaigns have worked, like the leads that have come through have been great, but the conversion on the back end's been just terrible, right? From not saying that it was the ads, they did their job, right? Their job was to get people to download the ebook. We got it cost effective, so I'm not at all bagging the agencies that we worked with on that, because they did a bloody great job, but just the conversions to clients didn't work well. So that's on us, right? So I sit there and I go, would we do something like that? Or we run what we call in that business a wealth acceleration workshop, which is a in-person or online workshop. It's usually a paid event of around $300. And ultimately that event, really, it's a loss leader. Like we will break even on that spend to acquire new clients. So would it be worthwhile driving some type of ad or series of ads just straight to that event? And even if it costs us $200 in ad spend to get someone to spend $300 with us, would that be a good outcome?
Potentially. I like the webinars. So you actually may, for something that's more like that, and that where, because you want it, about the learning phase, you want to get maybe 50 results of whatever you're going for in a 7-day period. So you may want to actually do this is adding on to something based on what you said, based on what I usually do, is maybe lead gen native forms, throw through plus list into Keep, and try to get 50 in a 7-day period. You can probably easily do that. And then that webinar sells them on the accelerator.
Gotcha. Right. So I'll put that into John speak for everybody. Because so essentially what we're doing there is we're going our paid advertisement on Facebook is going to an ad, which is getting people to sign up for free to a webinar, right? And we're using what they call a Facebook lead gen form. So when they click to go learn more or sign up, it just pops up an opt-in form or a lead gen form. It doesn't go to a website, doesn't go anywhere else. Lead gen form, and then we've got some technology on the back end that takes that data, puts it into Keep or whatever system that you do, that then does all the automation inviting to the events. Correct? Yeah. So driving traffic there, and the goal that you were saying was ultimately whatever the spend is, you'd need to work that out. But we want to see if we can get 50 registrations in a week.
Yeah, okay. That's because that's the learning phase. It starts to get exponential. So once you get 50 and 7, you start spending that, then you let it go longer. Then you can get 60 and 7 for the same price, and then 70 and 7, and 80 and 7, and then you continue to increase your better your audience, your spend, your bidding, and things to get more of those to do that. So the problem happens when you don't do it that way. Then you say you're a jeweler or something, and you're trying to get, you only get 3 sales in a month. Then you'll never get the optimization or the efficiency of Facebook that you could normally get the other way. So you want to go as deep as you can in your funnel while getting 50 and 7. Okay.
Yeah, great. So, and would that be regardless, like, because we're talking about a strategy there, essentially cold traffic or cold targeted traffic. We're not just spraying and praying, but targeted traffic to sign up for a webinar. So that's sort of the strategy as far as what we're delivering from a business perspective on that webinar. Would that be a similar process? Like, for example, we've got the International Academy of Wealth talking about wealth education, cyber intelligence. Would that be a similar type of process? It's the same strategy, talking about something different.
Yeah. I would say they'd be the same. And pretty much I break it up into 2 things. There's high ticket, low ticket. In this, and it'll be different than you usually talk about high ticket, low ticket. In this case, high ticket is anything over $100.
Okay.
Unless you're pretty much doing e-commerce, and that's gonna be low ticket. You're doing conversions, and you're actually trying to get sales. Because there's people in 25 sales a day, right? And so with a spend, because it's cheaper products and they have brand awareness, right? And so pretty much anything over $100 you're trying to sell is going to be that webinar version. Or what I've used as, I think you've mentioned, I did with Bryce at Plus This, we did a case study on video view funnels. So
Yep.
this might be good for the wealth one, especially, is where you do video views. You can get people a lot cheaper, and then you use custom audiences to say, okay, for the people who watch 75% of this first video, they see the second video, and do that
Yep.
3 or 4 times. And by the end of the last one, you have 5 non-consecutive minutes of them watching your stuff, and therefore they're much more inclined to be wanting to actually do something with you in the future. So that's
Yep.
if you're having trouble targeting or things like that. But also
Okay.
you got to keep track of, like, if when you're messaging mentioning earlier that it wasn't like getting the right people, then maybe it was like what I've seen maybe 600-700 times, people doing traffic ads as those nobodies. Those people are just people who click on websites and don't do anything else. So you shouldn't expect them to go buy something or download something.
Yep.
And so those are for retargeting, when you've already pre-qualified them via lead gen or conversions as someone who does something. And so flipping that is important. And then just there's so many other things.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, if as you're saying that, I'm thinking about our stuff, I'm thinking about our clients, and I'm trying to go, okay, where does all that fit in? And if I think about like broad spectrum, like majority, paint the brush wide, right? Yeah. Majority of our clients would be if we went from getting attention, right? So ad messaging, whatever that marketing strategy tactic is, right? We need to get attention. We need to get that. And we know we need to target the right people. And if we can take that to a point of being, like you're saying, webinar or maybe video views, or like what I like to call as well, like executive briefing. So sort of like an 8 to 15 minute, more longer form video. So those are sort of the 3 tactics that I like from there. And then so once we get those people to engage in that information, so come join a webinar, engage in our videos, watch an executive brief or something like that in their individual lines, we can then off the back of that either make an offer, being a paid offer, buy our stuff, or what a lot of our clients would be more than likely inclined to do. And I'm thinking like our software clients, the manufacturers and all of the like, would be, we're not trying to sell them on that webinar or on that video to, spend money with us, but our intent is to help them to make the decision to schedule a consultation with us. Exactly. And once again, that could be that free call, right? So it doesn't necessarily need to be paid, but if we're getting that lead flow coming through at a cost-effective rate, so that we have those strategy calls, it'll be great. I'm just thinking, like, for the majority of our clients, if they were acquiring a client at around $500 to $1,500 in cost, from that perspective, happy days. Like, obviously the less the better, but if it was in that realm, that's going to be great for most.
Absolutely. That acquisition understanding, I mean, I've seen way too many people who quote unquote care too much about the acquisition costs, because they're like, I need it at $5, I need it at $7. I'm like, what? Like, if you do it right and you're understanding the structural nature of how to do Facebook ads, you shouldn't, and if you have a big enough margins and understand your business model, you shouldn't have to care about that as much, right? And so it's almost like, if you're caring that much, either you don't have the money to spend that you need to spend, and therefore you can't peacefully run a 2-week, 3-week campaign without touching it, and you're going to sabotage yourself, or you really just don't have the right business model to scale the way you want to at the moment. So I'm trying to fix that problem for people.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Hey, so let's, if we can, let's dive deeper into this webinar one, because I'm really interested. I'd love to just talk one strategy and really hone in on that, for example. So you mentioned 50 registrations in 7 days. A typical webinar style campaign, like when you're working with clients, are they typically running a webinar every week? Is it once a fortnight, once a month? Like, what's that sort of that, or is it going to an evergreen webinar? Like, what's that type of process typically look like?
Most of the people we ended up working with at Facebook, when I'll call it Facebook, it was a call center company, of course, that the subcontracted. Like, Facebook literally would ask these people for strategy help, because the people at Facebook are just tech people. They're not the strategy people. They don't do it with people. So, but what we did there was mostly the e-commerce type stuff, very little of these kind of business. So I've actually adapted it for this kind of stuff myself. But the idea is I would do ever webinars. I'm going to do that for my stuff is I'm going to make a webinar and then I'm going to have evergreen webinars because I don't need to get on. Most of it's I could record and it'll make sense. And we can have a Q&A, schedule a call to learn more, right? But with in terms of evergreen would be totally fine. Webinars, in terms of the timing frame, it's generally between you could do it every week, but you'd have to make it. And I think we can do this. I have a client that I'm working with it now where you can do merge fields and keep and stuff where you can change the dates because you want the campaigns to hopefully versus lifetime and daily, depends on how you want to do it. But you want them pretty much running separate from when the webinars actually happen because you need them to go at least 2 weeks. And if it's going well, you'd hope that you could be sustainable to get those running a month, 2 months to get the extra efficiency, get more leads and less cost.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I mean, if you were running it, like I love the evergreen style, once we've got a solution that's converting well, right? So, and I think this is the problem that we all see, right? Everyone goes, I'm just going to record it once and then it'll just work. And you're like, well, if you recorded it once really, really badly, it's not going to work. So they've got to convert. So if we went, okay, great, I'm new to doing this, or I've done it before, but it's a new strategy. Would you from a starting point, would you go, okay, well, let's just start with one webinar a month and just see, great, let's drive traffic to get that. So from my experience, show up rate on webinars is still pretty ordinary. And it's still typically around that 35 to 50%. If you're getting that type of show up rate and I'm talking broad spectrum terms, right? You're getting between 35 to 50% of registrations actually show up live to the webinar. You're doing good. You're doing good. Yeah. So if you have 100 registrations, somewhere between 35 and 50 rocking up, fantastic. That's so what type of, and I know this is a loaded question clearly, but what type of ad spend would you normally need to be looking at to generate 100 webinar registrations? Like what would that, or you're 50 in 7 days. I know it can be from
there's also no way to answer that question, but I'll talk about it. So I mean,
what's a guide? Yeah.
So for instance, like, so my on my website you can see Jillian did my testimonial, and she ran something and she ran a little bit and she got 200 registrations for momentum. Now it's up to 2,000. And then you can see some of the details there. For mine, I didn't run it for a webinar specifically, but I specifically did 2,000 and I got 91 people to download my PDF. And so like there's some stuff there, but then again, messaging can increase that, right? And what you're doing and how you target can always just increase that. But really getting the structure is super key. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to figure out how much that would be for any individual person. But I would say you probably want to start. I mean, if you're actually you'd want to maybe do $100 a day. Just start there is usually a good place. If you're like, money's not the object, let's start somewhere. But really the idea is how much can you leave for how much time we're willing to let it leave. So if you're doing a month, how much money can you spend in a month that you're going to be okay if you quote unquote didn't work at all, right?
Yeah, and what's your return on investment time frame?
It's going to work. Like, so it's you need to start somewhere, right? But the problem is what you cannot do is spend this much money and I'm going to start editing in the middle because I don't trust it. Well, then you're definitely going to fail.
Yeah, and so cool.
The money has to. It's more about that than like what's the amount. It's how much can you peacefully leave that lets you do it the right way. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. So actually allocate 500, $1,000, whatever it's going to be, $2,000. Allocate that to that ad. It's testing. You're not touching it.
Yeah, you're not touching.
You're not touching it. You've allocated that money. You've gone to the casino, thrown it on there, and you're hoping for a positive outcome. I think this is the thing, right? You're going to get a result either way. It may not be the result you're after, but you're going to get a lesson from that. Just
to make sure we're doing that. So also you want to consolidate your budget to 2 weeks at the minute. So say you only have like $500,000, right? That spend in 2 weeks is better than that spend in 4 weeks because your bid is going to be higher and you're going to bid for more valuable people. So that's important. but also just I forgot what else
Cool.
was.
So okay, cool. So let's do a live example, right? I love getting into this. This is really cool. So let's say, okay, so we've got one webinar. The whole thing we're doing, we're driving to a webinar. Whatever we sell off the back of that webinar, call, product, is irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole purpose of this is to go, how do we put dollars in to target these people to get registrations for this thing, right?
Yes.
Even getting them to show up, that's got nothing to do with the ad. That's got to do with
That's
the email copy and how you're following
Yeah.
up and all of that, right? So we've got to really focus in, because you'll hear a lot of the time, and this is why I made that context before, around our stuff. Like, the ad worked, the money worked, the consultant worked. What didn't work was the follow up and converting them, right? So we knew the offer was getting people to download it. Whether they were the right people or not, that's a completely different conversation. But yeah, so we've got a webinar that we're running once per month. So let's just say that's on week 4 of the month, last day of the month. And you mentioned, which I love, is we've allocated a budget. Okay, so instead of coming in and going, oh, we're just going to spend $10, $100 a day or whatever on Facebook, what is my budget to test this campaign? Is that what I'm getting? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah,
so if
yes.
I'm gonna, yeah, great. So I'm gonna spend $1,000. So I'm gonna test $1,000. That's my magic number. Testing $1,000 to see how many registrations I can get for this thing. We've got to test it anyway. Whether we've done it before or not, we've got to test it. So then, if we know the webinar's on week 4, where do we run that 2 weeks of ad spend? Do we run that 2 weeks of ad spend on week 2 and week 3 with the webinar starting on week 4, or do you run it on week 1 and week 2, nothing in week 3? What would be that time frame?
I would say just generally, I would do week 2, 3, and then like right up until the webinar, just for urgency's sake. But because you only have $1,000 and not $10,000, you'd probably want to consolidate it to 2 weeks. I don't let anybody pretty much do anything under 2 weeks, because you don't let the algorithm do its thing. The first week of that may be completely learning, where it's trying to say, okay, of the section, the 30 to 70 million people, detailed targeting, that's key. By the way, we can talk about audiences at some point. If you're doing the wrong, whatever your audience is, it says, okay, part A, part B, part C, part D. Okay, let's keep sending ads to a little bit of both of these. And okay, part B keeps getting a lot of registrations. So let me focus on part B and start ignoring parts A, C, and D. Well, that takes some time, and then eventually about a week or so, generally it figures it out, and then you start getting the efficiency of it, starts to get exponential, getting that 50 and 7. So 2 weeks is when the least I'd probably do it for, especially if you have lower budget. You want to consolidate your money into that time. And then you're good to go. But I would say in terms of urgency, it's towards right until the actual time is up.
Yeah, right up to it. Yeah, perfect. Okay, that's fantastic. All right, so I just want to recap all of that. So we've got webinar, we've got whatever the spend is, up to a certain amount, but we made the magic number $1,000, driving traffic for 2 weeks to a lead generation form that registers them for the webinar. Perfect. All right,
and one thing, the lead generation form is what I'm having people do right now, because of the iOS 14 update. It somewhat gets rid of the problems with pixels at the moment with this iOS 14 update. So that's why I'm doing it, is those, as opposed to what used to be done with conversions.
Right, okay, perfect. I reckon everyone's going to sit there and go, what are we talking about? Which is cool. So
I always forget people don't know about
so if you're thinking that and you're like, you know what, I need to investigate Facebook ads, you need to have a call with Eric, and we'll share how you can do that. That's the easiest way to do it. Okay, cool. So we've spoken about the strategy. Let's dive into before we do the audience, because I know that's going to be the most important thing. What I just want to stay on that framework for a moment, and what I want to talk about is within that strategy, are we driving one ad, or have we got 2, 3, 4, 5 variations of that one ad going to that same lead form?
Okay, this is so crucial. This is so great. I love that question. As most people who've done Facebook ads know, there's 3 levels to a campaign. Campaigns up top, and also CBO, campaign budget optimization, is crucial to this ability to do this. You're gonna have one campaign. The campaign part is like, how much money is in it, and is it using CBO? That's key. Then you're gonna have ad sets. This is who it's going to, and very placements and a bunch of other stuff. But really, that's the audience. For the ad sets, we want to have, I generally do about 4. So we'll do a detailed targeting audience, And then depending on if you can do it, I would have either 3 detailed target audiences or a detailed targeting and 3 lookalike audiences. So if you have, and we can talk about lookalike audiences, they're in my courses, we can talk about them, but a 1, a 5, and a 10% of your best purchase audience. And then detailed targeting is your control group of who you want to go after and see which one happens. But if you don't use CBO, it's not going to work. And so those 4 ad sets, and then underneath that,
CBO, just so we're clear, that's conversion-based optimization, correct?
Campaign budget optimization.
Campaign budget optimization.
What that does is, if we have it correctly with the ad sets, then we have the ad level, which is just the ads, right? And we have the right stuff. So let's just for very simplicity's sake, say you have 2 ads. One is they're both the same picture, but they have different text, or it's the opposite where they have the same text but different pictures. That's probably the most common. But both of those versions are in every single ad set. And the way to do that is you set up one full ad with one ad set, then duplicate the ad set, change the ad set audience, and then you have it done pretty easily, pretty fast. So in that case, we have 1 campaign, 4 ad sets, and 8 ads. But every ad is the same in each ad set. With CBO, now the money, it's going to start sending it to all the ad sets and all the ads. And then eventually one will start winning, and it'll stop sending money to the bad ones. And if you don't have CBO, it won't do that. And it'll just start always sending money to all of them.
Cool. So with CBO, you don't then need to manage that. Is that what we're saying there? It will take care of it.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah.
But people sabotage it all day long. And also, if you don't use CBO, you don't know whether, and if you don't do the ad sequence this way, you don't know if it's the ad, the copy, the creative, or the audience that made the sale. But with this way, you know. And then you can, therefore, after your 2 weeks or your month, you're ready to do the new one. You have to start the learning over because you're duplicating it. You're not republishing it. That's extremely key. Not editing active ads. You duplicate, publish a new version, turn off the old one forever, and you have a new one to compare to that one. You have your best winner, and you have new versions, and you can compare them after that. But if you don't do it that way, you're going to be all frazzled.
I can see a lot of people are going to go, this is
our whole
why
thing
I
is
don't
we do it with
ads.
you. We do it with you.
Exactly.
We don't solve the entire problem.
Exactly. Because I mean, there's a lot to it, right? There's a lot to it, and this is the key component. Like people have just got this. Oh, I bought a Udemy course and it told me how to set up something, and
The
or
bar's
Udemy
too
or whatever
low.
it's called.
The bar's too low for Facebook ads. We're the top tier. I think I'm top 100 in the world at this because people who work as a marketing expert, and I was one of the best of them. There's not that many of them. There's maybe, I don't know, 700 in the world at a time.
So I think it's crazy, and this is the thing, right? I remember the big, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I remember the big washout, right? Whenever that was a couple of years ago, when Facebook changed their algorithm, and then all of a sudden there was all of these I'm a Facebook ads expert because I've got a laptop, mobile phone, and an internet connection. And now I don't have a job, don't have any clients because my ads aren't performing. What was hilarious at that time was all of those people who, had to pivot, they love using that word. All of a sudden overnight became a LinkedIn marketing expert. So my competition in the LinkedIn space, picked up in that, and it cracks me up. Like you've got to test, measure, and tweak, and that's the only way you get better, right?
That's how marketing is. I mean, thinking you're going to get solid results for marketing is like already inherently flawed.
So I think this is the thing, and like as a business owner, and I know this is the same. Well, I know for my clients anyway, they're like, how do we just make our money perform? Like it's in it. We've got to come through it. And I know Mark would agree with me from the International Academy of Wealth is looking at it from as an investment. Like I'm investing here to get a return, right? I'm putting money in to multiply that money, whatever that looks like, 3 times, 10 times, whatever it's going to be. But we're not doing it to lose money, right? We're doing it to generate income, to generate revenue. So we want to make sure that whatever it is that we're doing, and right now we've been talking about this webinar strategy, whatever it is that we're doing is producing the outcome. And this is what I loved about what you talk about, Eric, and I know like your presentation at PartnerCon as well was all about this, and you've reiterated it today, was set yourself the budget, test budget, whatever it's going to be. Like it is what it is, right? I mean, you might be lucky enough to come in with, you got a bigger business and you're like, fantastic, we're dropping 20 grand a month on ads to start with.
That'd
And
be nice.
we've committed $250,000 for the next 12 months. Let's go. Yeah. But the reality is the bulk of businesses out there, small businesses, I'm talking about micro to small businesses, are probably shitting themselves and going, you know what, $500, $1,000, $2,000, that's a lot of money for them, possibly. For some of them, it's not. But so what I like, what we're talking about here, and particularly this campaign, is you can drop $1,000, you can drop 2,000. When I say drop, I mean invest it, and you're not, you want to go into the strategy with the frame of mind of, yes, you are going to be continuing to do this, every single month, but it's a great place to start testing, right? So your at-risk capital really is only, in this example that we gave, $1,000. Like that's all you're risking. Right. So I think when people get that mindset around, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're going to risk $1,000 to see what the outcome's going to be. Now, obviously, we want a positive outcome, and we haven't spoken about this yet, and I don't know if we'll get to it a great deal today, but you've got to think about what is your sales cycle as well. What's like when a lead comes in and you start speaking to them from a discovery call, what's the typical time frame? Because you might not actually see a monetary ROI for 3 months, possibly 6 months, 9 months, even depending on your sales cycle. But it's the investment up front that's going to do that. We're talking lead gen, we're talking lead flow here. So all of these things need to come into it when people are basing their decisions on that. I just wanted to talk about that. All right, so let's just bring this back. 3 main things in the ads. You've got campaigns, you've got ad sets, and then you've got the ads themselves, right?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Okay, fantastic. And we create one campaign, one ad set that targets one particular audience with the ads under it. Then we duplicate that ad set, keep the same ads, but change the audience number 2, audience number 3, audience number 4. So that's the way that we're doing. Perfect. Awesome. So let's talk about audiences. Because this I know for you is like gold, right? This is really where you're going to make or break your campaign, other than your functionality.
Well, editing
right?
first, editing and structural and stuff and bidding. But yes, then the audiences, making sure you're going after the right people. So really there's 3 kinds of audiences, right? Detailed targeting, lookalikes, and custom audiences. So detailed targeting is the key. So if you're doing national campaigns, right, let's just generally say US or Australia, right? Or you're doing the big 4 where it's US, Australia, Great Britain, and Canada. These are the big 4. Any of those, right? When you're doing national and it's not like a local. I do national versus local, right? I'm just using US for the example since that's where I am. But I know you guys in Australia, it's a little different. But you need it to be 30 to 70 million people in that detailed targeting. I've seen people try to do a national and they're like, I want to hyper target my people. So I got 5 million people. You're never gonna see results. It's just not enough people. And also I've seen people do clothing in the US and it's 200 million people. You'll never see any efficiency. It's too many people to sift through for the algorithm. And so you got to really make sure it goes there. And if there's all these tips and tricks we've learned on how to do it, engage shoppers. Don't know if anybody knows what that is, but it's a cool one to help narrow your focus. It's not about, and it's like, this is what I like to say is the interests are not, and you can do employers and stuff, and there's lots of things. And every time I see these ads about Facebook taking away some detailed targeting, I'm like, wasn't even using this anyway. But it's not about so much what you're doing. It's more about what the kind of thing that the people are interested in. So fishing, right? I'm not going to put fishing as an interest necessarily. I'm putting Bass Pro Shops. I'm putting like what other places do these people like to go to? When you try to go super luxury items, you just Lamborghini, Bugatti, like what do these people also like to go after, right? And then doing that. Now, if you're doing local, you just want as many people as you can get in there. So 10-mile radius and super, super broad. In terms of demographics, age, I want to be as broad as possible.
Okay.
I'm not letting age be the factor. I'm letting the interest do the targeting. And gender, if you 80% of your buyers or more, then you can do one gender, otherwise do both.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about. I'll give you an example. Like if we talk about Dark Exposed, our cyber intelligence product, right? So that's targeting essentially. If I give you the things, it's targeting business owners. Okay. Ideally, I mean, yes, we can work with anyone, but ideally, it's if I talk LinkedIn terms, 11 to 50, 50 to 200. So sort of that 11 to 200 head count is usually usually a good point to go with. What we find is when we start getting over 200, more and more and more, you've got to have that conversation with the cybersecurity guy, even though they're not doing what we're talking about. And then there's that, oh, we already do that, and you're like, actually, no, you don't. Yeah. And then the smaller end of town, like the 1 to 10 employees, great customers, but it's just a very long sales cycle, and the risk versus investment for them. That conversation comes up more than if we don't do this, the risk of being exposed, brand reputation, clients, team members is huge. So like when you're thinking of interests in that space, like this is where, because it's so different to LinkedIn, right? Like LinkedIn's more, I want seniority, I want location, I want industry.
You can do that with Facebook.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you bring in other interests though? You'd bring in interests, but you can do so a couple ways to do it. I'm just off the top of my head here is that you could do employees of the businesses you're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be one ad set, right? If you pick as many as you can think of and employees of as many of the ones that are actually in that zone.
So you could literally single out the business owner CEO
if they're big enough. Well, no, you could do that. You could do it by CEO job titles. You can do job titles for sure. I do job titles with my targeting often. So I had one that was like marketing for mine, obviously Facebook marketing. So I had like upper leadership one, and then I had like a marketing manager one, and then I had like a, I don't know, practitioner one or general marketing interest. So you could do it like that. But also what I'm saying is like, you could either take, well, maybe that's too low because it's only going to have specific businesses that are bigger. So maybe you're not going to be able to hit those, but you can do employees of, right? And there may even, I haven't checked it in a while because I used to do interest targeting a lot more. But you could do interest in the kind of things like interest in cyber intelligence, right? So you could, anybody who's interested in it, you could get them. So there's lots of ways to do it, but I think for cyber intelligence, it might be video views. That might be, you might let their interest in the topic be the determinant.
Less their interest, but more target specific, demographical
video views. So let their own interest in the video content be your narrower.
Gotcha. So go broad
video views with like 3 5-minute videos. And blast the money on the front end, and then $10 a day on the last 4 videos, and see what happens.
Okay.
Because that's obviously hard. Now for you, it depends on how many people you have, but lookalikes could be even better, because how many people would you say have purchased? That's usually a question. If you can get, let's say 200 people to purchase, that's when lookalikes become viable.
Yeah. So for example, we run in that business, and the reason I bring this up is because we got the cross section of clients, right?
Yeah.
So we've got clients where that first option, hey, let's just go interest-based targeting, go and speak to them, drive them to a webinar or whatever. And then now I'm still talking about let's drive them through to a webinar. But for example, we've got account-based marketing. So for example, in Dark Exposed at the cyber intelligence side, we've got 2,500 companies in APAC that we've already done the research on to know that they've got exposure. We want to get in front of those people.
They're big enough businesses, you can just target employees of those businesses, and only, so you can narrow your audience, right? So one limiter is only these companies, and you could do only CEOs, and then in that little section you can do CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, whatever the case is, right? So you only get the people in those places that you want. But you won't get very much efficiency from that, because it's probably going to be a smaller audience, but it's the people you get in front of and they're worth more. So it would be better, and you would get a higher frequency on those. But That's how it works.
Because like we've got a couple of other clients, like one of our clients is in, like, for example, the sustainability space, and they've got a software product there, and there's whilst they can help many thousands of companies out there, they've also got their real targeted account-based approach list that as we definitely want to help all these people, but these ones here, we know if we can get them on board, the impact's going to be so great for them. And the PR from our end as well is just going to be, massive from that perspective as well. So yeah, it's really interesting, and I think this is where having that conversation with an expert like yourself is so important. Instead of just going, oh, so, I was at a networking function the other day, and this Facebook guy said that you should do this, so I'm going to spend $50 a day on doing local targeted ads. And I'm like, yeah, but you're an online business that services globally. Why are you targeting 5 kilometers within your like, what was the point? This, once again, this is an observation. I don't know who the ads guys are or anything like that, so I'm not trying to badmouth anyone, just so we're all clear. But you will all see the exact same framework and style of that. Perfect example is in the allied health space. So every day, if I jump on Facebook locally here where I am in Coolangatta, Queensland, I will see at least 5 of the identical ad for a different local business for a chiropractor. The exact same ad, same framework. It's literally like copy, paste, insert, different thing. Same offer, new client offer, and then you'll get the exact same framework for a physiotherapist. So someone is cleaning up. Good on them for finding their market and cleaning up, but good on them. But like literally, I'll get bombarded with. I'm like, oh, is that oh no, it's a different chiropractor from the ad that I saw before, but it looks exactly the same video framework and everything. Yeah, so they've obviously created the system, and they're and they've stitched up all the chiropractors, and I hope it works for them from that aspect. So that's what I'm talking about. There's that real cookie cutter approach, and then there's a cookie cutter from a strategic perspective, but completely customized and optimized for your outcome. And this is what we're talking about. Yeah, because everyone's going to have different language, understanding your prospects, the emotional connection with them, the copy so important. Where are we driving the audiences? How then that's great. We've got them on the webinar, but how do we structure that? There's so much to it. And we can talk about this for weeks, I reckon, from that perspective. Yeah. But hey, I'm conscious of time, Eric, and I really appreciate everything we've spoken about today. I'm just going to do a quick recap, and then I want to talk about like how people can get in contact with you, because I know like there's going to be a lot of people who are going to sit there and go, you know what? Yeah, once again, even if they're brand new or if they've already been doing Facebook, I know that there's going to be a ton of value here, because what was the follow-up from PartnerCon? Like you were getting some serious awesome questions from the community. Yeah, that was so many questions from it. So to recap what we're speaking about today, one of the funnels, like there's many different types of ways that you could use Facebook, but the thing that we focused on today was driving an ad. What style of ad was that again that you were talking about?
You can do video or pictures. I literally had someone doing and if I have time, I'll just quickly tell it. It was doing life insurance in Canada, right? So we had a call center, all automated, but we restructured his ads to do it correctly. He tripled his revenue, I believe, and was able to fire and automate everything. Fire the people, automate the process. His entire thing was a picture with a gravestone on grass whole time.
Wow. So picture ad or video ad, for example,
or using whatever.
Using a lead form, Facebook lead form right now. That might change down the track, but right now using the Facebook lead form to go, and we use the example of going to webinar registrations or an online masterclass, whatever it might be, right? So we spoke about that. Then we went into the structure. And the big takeaway I think here is campaign-based optimization. Is that right?
Campaign budget optimization.
Campaign budget optimization.
In the campaign level, use a little toggle, and that with the way we described how to create that is what is so key. So you don't have overlapping ads too much, And so, because I've seen people, I mean, because what happens if you have overlapping ads is that one ad will bid for, say, your eyeball for $1.01, $1.05, $1.10, $1.15 against yourself. Eventually, one of them drops out. The other one paid triple the price it needed to get your eyes.
Yeah. Wow.
It's not that.
Yeah. So campaign budget optimization, which is fantastic. And within that, we spoke about the 3 levels of the campaign itself, the ad sets, which had the individual audience per ad set, and then whatever your A/B split test were the ads within that ad set. So 1, 2, 4, and I think you mentioned four different ad sets, right? Because you're looking at ideally 4 audiences, and then was it whatever, how many of the ads you're going to test within there.
As long as they're the same, but also this is not using the A/B split test feature in Facebook. So be careful about that. Yeah.
So you're literally just splitting the spend between the ads. Yeah.
We don't undo that. That's, I've done it, the A/B split test, at least back in the day. I always found that they came out almost even, and you're like, I didn't even learn anything. What the heck?
Yeah. Exactly.
Spent equally money on the bad one. You're like, how do I know which one's good? So I do it this way. It's better.
Yeah, cool. And I think from the paid ad campaign, this is just one thing. If we were running a webinar style campaign, like we used the example, would be whatever the budget that you have allocated for the campaign, and we use the example of $1,000, spread that over a 2-week period. So spend it in a 2-week period, not over a month, because or not in a week. We need to get 2 weeks so the algorithm can work out what the heck's going on. And then manage that and monitor that. Don't touch it, spend it, sit there and go, let the campaign budget optimization do its thing. And then we can go, great, what happened? What did it cost us per registration? All of those, or leads, whatever it is, what did it look like from that perspective? So that's awesome. I love it, Eric. Did I sum that up fairly well?
That's good, yeah. And then you're gonna take that and then you're gonna make your changes, start a new one, turn off the old one, and do it for 2 more weeks and see what the changes you made. Obviously are gonna be better than what you had before, and it'll restart learning and it'll figure out faster, and your pixel will grow, and you can do that and throw your lookalikes in, and you're even better. And then it's all about
build. Yeah, just keep going. Yeah, which is, I love it. So Eric, I know there's many ways that you can help people. I know you've got online courses. I know you've got group coaching, private consulting, and all of that. A great place to start is you've got some free resources for us, correct? So everyone watching the live stream will have that in the chat for you there. So you can go check out Eric's free resources from there. And I think you also said for those people who are ready to have a conversation with you as well, you'll share your calendar link with us as well, and we'll drop that in the chat as well. So what I wanted to talk, just to wrap up on before we finally wrap, was from your perspective, you've got many different types of people out there. Is this something that somebody could understand how to do it and then just go run themselves? Or are they best to spend $2 to $5 grand a month on a marketing agency to help them with? Because personally, this is just me personally, I would rather educate myself, my team, and then that money that I was spending on the strategy component, put that into the ad spend. That's what I'd prefer to do.
That's why I built my entire business model on. So the reason I think this is because the agencies don't know what they're talking about. They're also not incentivized to be transparent with you. They're not even being bad. They're not being evil about it, right? They're just incentivized to keep you coming along. So why would they pull out all their cards? Why would they pull out all their cards right now? They need to have something. If something doesn't work, they need to have something else to pivot to. Well, that's not how I want to do it. I want to teach you everything. If you do Facebook ads correctly, you can do it 1 hour every 2 weeks, basically, or an hour a week. Not counting about the content part, right? But people are spending one whole person $60,000 a year on a person that's doing that.
Yeah, wow.
And that's not the ad spend, and they're doing it wrong because they're not taught by me.
Yeah.
So my solution is, and obviously I have smaller courses. I don't know if you want me to talk about the actual offerings.
Yeah,
right
you can
now,
talk about that. That's fine. Yeah.
So the idea is that the big one we have is our personalized consulting. My solution is to, in 3 months, solve the problem for you forever for Facebook ads. You take the course, it's 5 1-hour calls where we deeply do it with you explaining, and every 2 weeks, so that you get that 2-week test every time. By the end of 3 months, you've done it with us multiple times, and we've taught you how to read the metrics. I've had people turn off the best performing ad set because they thought it was the worst performing ad set because they didn't know how to read the metrics. And then so the idea is that now that, so instead of spending $2,000, I've heard people spending $10,000 on Facebook marketing a month, and then usually 1,000, 2,000. So they're spending that every month.
This is the consultancy fee, not the ads. This is the consultant.
That's the consultancy fee for the agencies, right?
Yeah.
And I don't really pay for the ads either myself, but I'm trying to say in 3 months you'll be done paying forever, because you take our consulting course or consulting, and then you're in our free monthly Q&A for life, for free.
Yeah.
And I'm going to create a group eventually that you can be and talk to other people who've also taken our consulting, but you're never going to have a question again. I'm so confident that you won't need to, but also if you do need to, we're here for you for free forever. So it's about solving that problem. Now you're going to take that $2,000 a month and spend it on your actual ads instead of having someone do it. And you have a BS detector now for when people try to talk to you about Facebook ads.
Yeah.
You know, if you ever need to outsource for full, you actually know who to go to, and you actually know who to have connections with agencies, but you know what if they're doing it wrong or right. You also are going to stop worrying. You have no more time bottlenecks with all these meetings with them. You own your own marketing again. I mean, the benefits are endless.
Yeah, I love it. And the cool thing about it is, like, and you hit the nail on the head. Even if you have an outsourced team or a VA or whatever, you can train them up on how to do it. Like, this is great. So you like that hour a week and all of that. I think it's good for business owners to understand it. Whether or not they want to be in it on the day-to-day, that's a different conversation. And this is why so many of us would spend money on an agency, because we believe that they've got their efforts. And once again, it's not about bagging agencies, because it's their business model. It's what they do, but it's about getting the education and understanding what's available to you. And this is what I loved about when we first connected. You were like, no. I reckon we can show you. We'll just show you how to do it.
Yeah.
And then you can just do it. You don't know. I was blown away. Okay.
Yeah. The phrase I like to use is, I give you all the levers to pull for whatever situation you're in, all the pitfalls to avoid, and you're good.
Yeah, I love it. Eric, that's fantastic. Everybody watching and listening, if you'd love to get your hands on the resources, if you'd love to have a call with Eric, if you'd like to find out more about his programs and solutions and all of those types of things, with the live feed going into Facebook, we'll drop all of that information under the live feed in the comments there. And for anybody watching the replay as well, just simply fill out the form and we'll get all that information over to you, and Eric will be in contact. Eric, really appreciate your time today. It's been fantastic. I cannot wait to get back to the US. That's hopefully 2022. I had to cancel 5 trips in the last 18 months, which has been frustrating. But yes, I cannot wait to be there. Thank you so much for your time today. And everybody else at home, we're going to finish the live stream there, and we'll talk to you all again real soon. Bye for now.
Bye for now.